You are tuned in to a Fireside Chat with Zany Mystic. Join us now on another exciting metaphysical journey. Relax, tune in, drop out, and take a seat by the fire as we explore new realms and possibilities. This is Magenta Pixie. You can find me at magentapixie.weebly.com. But now, here is Zany Mystic and guest. Enjoy the show.
Greetings, and welcome to a Fireside Chat with Zany Mystic. I'm your host, Lance White. Today, my guest is Graham Hancock. Graham is the best-selling author of The Sign and the Seal, Fingerprints of the Gods, and Heaven's Mirror. He teamed up with Robert Bauval to write The Message of the Sphinx, and is a frequent traveler to all the sacred sites around the world, researching the truth about our history. His books have sold more than 5 million copies worldwide and have been translated into 27 languages. His latest book is a novel titled Entangled, which we'll be talking about today. He recently participated in the groundbreaking film directed by Entangled entitled Earth Pilgrims. We may also touch upon his book Supernatural, which is an account of the ancient teachers of mankind and the use of natural substances to cross into other realms. So, let's welcome Graham to the show now. Hi, Graham, how are you?
Hi, good to be with you.
Well, you know, I have to tell you before we get started that I couldn't stop reading Entangled. I literally couldn't put it down.
I'm really glad to hear that. Then it means I've done my job well as a novelist.
Oh, absolutely. And the characters are so beautifully drawn, and of course, they're all good characters, but I especially appreciate a Dr. Bannister for personal reasons. And the themes that you get into are really cosmic themes, and they're relevant today because it's the battle of good and evil.
Yes, the book is all about the battle of good against evil, and it's played out in two different time frames, which nevertheless interconnect because I would say, a very quantum physics view of time in this novel, that time is not an arrow, it's not a kind of straight line with cause and effect only moving in one direction, but rather it's a series of cycles and spirals that intersect and cut across one another, and knotted segments of time that are bearing influence upon one another. So the two principal characters are both young women. They're the heroes of this story. Rhea, in the Stone Age, is a human being like you and I, and anatomically modern human beings, because anatomically modern human beings did live on the planet 24,000 years ago in the Stone Age. But the other principal Stone Age character is a young Neanderthal man called Brindle, and the Neanderthals are our cousins, and they became extinct mysteriously 24,000 years ago. And the book opens with Rhea rescuing Brindle from an attack by members of her own clan, because they call the Neanderthals the Uglies, and they hate them and despise them. And Rhea rescues him and goes with him to his people. And while this is happening, an extraordinary invasion of their lands is taking place from another human people called the Illimani, who are led by a demon, a demonic force who has taken a human body, and his name is Sulpa, and his mission is to wipe out all goodness from the world. And in this novel, I don't conceive of the Neanderthals as knuckle-dragging ape men. I conceive of them as full of beauty and truth and goodness, and they're a kind of light for the world. They're gentle and loving and compassionate. They communicate telepathically. And the reason that the demon wants to mislead human beings into destroying them is that he gains a psychic charge by doing that, a sufficient psychic charge to manifest fully in the 21st century, in our time. And if he can do that, then he will be in a position to weave the doom of all mankind forever. All our potential will be destroyed. Everything will be lost. When the story opens, he's not yet fully in physical form in the modern age. He's more like a dark cloud or an influence that influences and misdirects and misleads people. But if he succeeds in bringing about the extermination of the Neanderthals in the Stone Age, then he'll be able to jump forward across time and take a body in the 21st century, and that will really be the end of us. So stopping him killing off the Neanderthals in the Stone Age is the essential jeopardy of the story, and this is the role of the young heroine Rhea in the Stone Age. And her sister in time, as I refer to her, is a young woman in modern Los Angeles, 21st century Los Angeles, named Leonie, and she has already been a victim of this demonic influence in the 21st century because her parents are members of the cult of this demon. He's called Jack in the 21st century, and she's been subjected to horrific abuse during her childhood, which she's largely been persuaded to forget about. But in a near-death experience that she undergoes at the beginning of the story, she has an encounter with an angelic and good supernatural being who I call the Blue Angel, who reveals to her the truth about herself and sets her on her mission to join forces with Rhea across the barrier of time to defeat this demon and make sure that he does not bring about the end of the world.
Yes. Well, all of this is, very resonant because I can see parallels to our own time today.
Oh, yeah.
And obviously, you meant it to be that way.
Very much so. Very much so.
Yes.
And
because those things are really going on.
Yeah, they are. We live in dark times, and demonic forces are at work, and humanity humanity today is being misled, and our faculties are being closed down. There's such extensive mind control in our societies, such dominance of individual consciousness that I do believe that most people go through their lives really quite unaware of what is being done to them.
Absolutely.
And just to branch off on the side from this, I've been doing a lot of travel around the United States in the last month, and a lot of flying from airport to airport. And it's very clear to me, both in the U.S. and in Britain, that we are doing a terrible trade of liberty for security. And a horrendous habit of obedience is being inculcated into us. I'm thinking of these so-called naked body scanners in airports.
Yes.
Where people although we have the option to opt out, 99% of passengers just queue up without question and have their body blasted with X-rays. And I discovered that if you do opt out, a directive seems to have been given to security staff in all airports to make the opt-out process extremely painful and unpleasant. So the physical search that they shout, opt out, and guards gather around you, and they do a very almost abusive, rape-like physical search, very humiliating and in public with a lot of bracing of rubber gloves and angry looks. And I can see that what they're doing there is they're making the human right to opt out so uncomfortable and so unpleasant that the few of us who do choose to opt out will eventually opt in. And in this way, creating an absolute habit of obedience to government controls. And I think that a habit of obedience is not what we need in the world today. We need free and responsible, independent adults who are capable of making up their own minds about things.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you, and I read an account of that opt-out process, and I couldn't help but think that this is what they're doing on every level that we can conceive of, as far as growing your own food. They're working on laws to not allow you to do that.
Yeah.
Cutting back on organic farming so that it's eventually blocked. It just goes on and on. The chemtrails.
It goes on and on. Consider these mass vaccination campaigns, and again, how quite regardless of the issue of how dangerous these vaccinations can be, what I see even worse is again that we're being put into an automatic habit of obedience to state authority, and simply saying yes. And to my mind, this goes completely against the American way. It's against everything that the founding fathers stood for. You know, and when I look at this happening to a beautiful, wonderful country like the United States, which has been a beacon of freedom and liberty in the world for so long, it makes me very sad, and I can't help feeling that something has gone terribly, terribly wrong.
Yes. Yes, I agree with you, and it does seem that there are larger forces at play that are basically closing the noose, and they're working at it overtime at this point, and I wonder if that might have something to do with the 2012 material that we are all familiar with and the closing of so many cycles. It seems that they're trying to basically, we were born as slaves. We've always been indentured as slaves, all of us, but we've been allowed to at least think that we weren't slaves. But now they're actually getting us to the point where they're taking the final step and closing the gap, and we will know that we are slaves, and then we will be microchipped, told what to do, and there won't be any option to, as you said, opt out, because they'll make it so painful.
This then is the end of all human potential, all creativity, all imagination, all individuality will be crushed by this process, and worst of all, this automatic habit of obedience and of saying yes. Now, when the authorities are relatively benign, you know, that may not result in horrendous consequences, but 20 or 30 years down the line, we don't know what kind of governments we're going to have, and if we're all ground down into a complete habit of obedience, we'll say yes to anything.
Yes.
And I think it's a terrifying prospect. Yeah, we are. It's already happening. It's already happening now, and I do see. I've always felt that the fundamental dynamic of the universe is the struggle of good against evil, and that's why Entangled is all about that, and that in this struggle, the special position of the human being is the ability to make choices. Unlike other animals with whom we share this planet, our consciousness has evolved to a stage where we can actually make